Welcome back, my button mashers. It is once again NatesLegend here, and today I'm actually joined by Scott, Mr. That's Bail Anon? Is that how you say that?
That close enough.
Close enough. How would you say it?
I'd say it the same way.
The same way. All right.
Bail
All
Anon.
right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Scott and I have known each other for a while. We're going to be talking about squadrons today, and we were talking a little bit before. Throughout the week, really, just about the game, and so I wanted to bring you on here. Other than squadrons that we'll be talking about today, what else are you playing?
I'm always playing Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne. I love to play things like Total War, Stellaris, Civilization, big RTS and RPG players. So those are usually what I got going on rotation. Fair
enough. Now, you mentioned RPGs. Have you had a chance to check out? I wouldn't classify it as a full RPG. I think they called it an RPG light. But the new Assassin's Creed game, Valhalla. Check that out.
I haven't. I'm waiting to get a PS5 before I play Valhalla. But if it's anything like Odyssey, I loved Odyssey. It was one of my favorite Assassin's Creed. Like I really loved the first and second Assassin's Creed, and then there were quite a few in the entries that's like the quality dipped, and then Odyssey was way better. So if it's anything like Odyssey, I'm very excited.
Fair enough. And it's I would put it up there with Odyssey. I've had a chance to look at all of them now since when we talked about Valhalla. So, all right, fair enough. I just wanted to kind of let people know what you were playing there. Now, before the show, as we were kind of talking, I gave you a question. I'm gonna go ahead and ask everyone, but this way you could come up with a good answer. So the question that I posed to you is, if you could have any game from any era remade to be 2020 next gen compatible, what game would it be? Why? And if you had to make any changes to make the game more modern, what changes would those be?
So this was a super easy question for me. Legend of Dragoon is a late 90s PS1 era Japanese role-playing game. It's basically kind of high fantasy. You know, you go out, you have to stop the world from getting destroyed. You get the powers of dragons. You become like this cool armored dragon knight. And it was one of my favorite RPGs as a kid. Final Fantasy is my favorite video game series of all time. And so it was just kind of a step down from there for me, but still an amazing game. Why I would want it remade? One, I mean, graphical updates are always amazing. And I'm super happy with that. Two, you just can't find it. I was kind of an idiot, and when I was a teenager, I wanted some extra money, and I sold like all of my old consoles. I sold my PlayStation 1. I sold 2 N64s, an NES, an SNES. And then as a nostalgic adult, I'm kicking myself because I was like, I really wish I still had those.
My heart hurts for you, bro. That's rough.
And so I found, it's one of those things where I'd have to go buy a PS1 and buy that game again because I sold them both, which like I could do, but it's kind of a lot. There you go. There you go.
I happen to have an extra one laying around. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, but I've always hoped that it would come out on like the PlayStation Network, or they would do a remaster. I think they even did one for PS3, 10 years ago. But it's just one of the things where every like 6 months, I'm just like, I'd really love to play that game again. And it'd be, they talk about like, oh, would you want to change any of these things, mechanics? I'm like, no, I kind of really just want like a remake with the like same systems and the same stuff, because like that's what you really enjoyed. And
it adds extra nostalgia,
yeah. But I also wouldn't be opposed to something like akin to the Final Fantasy VII remake, because that was so good, and it's one of those things where it's not just a carbon copy. It's something you can enjoy on its own and has its own merit. So yeah, that's definitely my game that I would have remade.
Gotcha. Well, I dig it. That's a great choice. And yeah, you were real quick to answer that when I asked it before. So it sounds like you've had that on your mind for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's no one else will understand this but me and Nate, but that's a Gajeski answer.
Yes. Speaking of which, that's be another great person to bring on. I would love to bring them on. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge down the road here.
They will. I'm sure they'd like that.
Right. But a couple things just in the news. Nothing too awfully major. We got Cyberpunk 2077 coming out. If it's not already out, it's coming out tonight. It's kind of coming out tomorrow. Some people have it, some people don't. It's today, though.
Yeah, with a huge day one patch.
Huge, yeah. I actually hadn't. Oh, I hadn't had a chance to check out the patch. What did they have to do already?
So I'm not sure exactly what they're patching, but the day one patch they've said is the size of a full game in terms of its data. So I'm assuming it's probably bug fixes and quality of life stuff. But it's definitely giving people like, oh great, this is going to delay me playing this game even longer.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that that they don't have any major issues. Like, you have pushed it back enough at this point in time that you better not have any issues. Like, you specifically requested that time so that you wouldn't. And I feel like once you set that expectation after such a long extension, you kind of have to. Same's going to go for Halo, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But you're going to push a game back that far, you better come to deliver.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Though there is part of me that's just like, hey, you guys can wait. I waited 10 years for Kingdom Hearts 3. You'll be fine.
Right. Fair.
Actually, no, I think it was more like 13 years.
It was a while. I guess we're only waiting. I mean, we're at what, about a year now on Cyberpunk?
It was a year. Yeah, from announcement. Like, I think the delay, because it wasn't supposed to come out in like March or April of this year, and so really it's only a 7-month delay. So
yeah, whereas I mean, Halo is getting a straight up at least year's delay because it was supposed to be out fall this year, and it's we'll cross that bridge. Nonetheless, Kratos and The Mandalorian both coming to Fortnite. I don't know if they're coming, if they're in. I don't know. It's Fortnite, but hey, there you go. Speaking of Kratos, though, the director of God of War, Cory Barlog, said that he wants to see a Mandalorian game. Now that they have both of them up on Fortnite, I vote he directs it. I loved God of War. Did you have a chance?
The new God of War is probably my favorite in this series. I've played every game in that series, and one of the problems that I always had was it was kind of like violence porn. Yeah. But the new one, not only is it super fun mechanics and a super great story, but it also is like really compelling and something you can get into without feeling like you're kind of gross.
Yeah, and even just walking around, like, you at least have a mirror that's talking to you, and like you have these things that make that trip more enjoyable. To the point that, I mean, if we're gonna get anybody to direct this game, this Mandalorian game with this concept, why not the director of God of War, who created an amazing world, amazing gameplay, and did take he added more story and less violence to
absolutely. Yeah, and there's still plenty of violence.
You're
welcome. You're welcome to it, but you don't have to
get a whole array of violence. You get to choose your violence.
Exactly.
Let's see. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake has been delayed as well. This, I mean, really, it comes down to, at this point, COVID's just going to delay everything. I don't expect anything to come out on time. Yeah. But that's been pushed back from January 21st back to March 18th. So it's only a couple months. Doesn't seem like a big deal. Game Pass was announced. So Xbox Game Pass was announced for iOS coming in spring of 2021. And Destiny 2 also announced they are going cross-platform in 2021. I didn't see an exact date, but if you happen to know anything about that, that's coming. We'll probably have to discuss that on the next Destiny episode here. But as I mentioned, we'll get to it. Halo. We finally received an update on Halo after they refused to say anything and admitted that they were refusing to say something. We finally have an update, and it's mixed. Have you seen the update? What else is coming along with it? I
haven't seen all what's coming with it. I just know that it was delayed from fall. That's all I heard.
So we're down to fall of 2021. But a couple of the bigger things that they announced during this, and I skimmed. I'm going to be honest. I got ADHD, and I cannot focus on reading it's like a script. It's an interview. I don't want to read an interview. Like, let me listen to the interview. You know. Anyway, nonetheless, that's not here nor there. Infinite multiplayer is going to be free to play. We are getting microtransactions, but no loot boxes, which upsets me a little bit.
Yeah.
They're wanting to open up customization of the game. You're going to have way more beyond just the skins that they offered, or the templates, whatever it is that they kind of announced already with Halo 4. But you're getting full customization from what I was seeing. So it should be really fun to get back into that. But the biggest update was actually telling us about the graphics. So,
yeah, which was the big complaint, and probably most of the reason why people want it delayed. Which when the trailer came out, like, I mean, I love nice graphics as much as anybody. I thought they kind of looked okay, but they kind of looked regular gen, right? They looked like something you'd expect on the Xbox One or the PS4, not something you'd see next gen.
Yeah, exactly. And as I put the pictures up here on the screen that I've just pulled directly from that report, this feels next gen, especially this picture. If you actually get the chance to go in and look at this, it's gorgeous. In my mind, this looks next gen. I just hope the gameplay can transition. Like, a still shot's one thing, but you know, you can fake 120 frames per second for 30 seconds while you get a screenshot. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can make anything look amazing, but if you want it to run at 30 FPS, 60 FPS, like if you want to run it at that fidelity, that's a whole other story.
Exactly. It's we're gonna go ahead and move us back over here. There we go. Beautiful. So yeah, I agree. I mean, when it comes down to, I'm worried about the size running everything that smoothly. But I guess it's a next gen console game, so it's got to have something to curb that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mostly. So I'm not an Xbox person. Like, no hate. Like, they're great consoles, but I've just found that there's not enough games that I really care about to justify buying two different consoles and maintaining a good gaming rig on my PC. And so the fact that they're going to release it for both Xbox and PC has been huge for me. Yeah. I just bought the whole Master Chief collection.
Nice.
Because I really like the Halo games, but I never bought an Xbox One.
They just got Halo 4 into at least the Master Chief collection. So
they did. So, and on Steam, it was like $40 for all 5 games. So
yeah, I mean, you can run a brand new Star Wars Squadron game, runs you about $40 right now without any Black Friday deals. So, I mean, you're getting a great deal. That many games for $40.
Yeah, and you know, if you're my age, which is almost 30, then you know those are the games you grew up with, and you know you remember like just shooting your friends in Banshees when you're like 12 years old. So you know, like it's a great thing to revisit, and I'm really happy that it's ported to PC.
Yeah, I'm so glad that they decided to go that route. And they've announced, I mean, I've kind of talked about it in other shows, but they've really announced that the Game Pass is the direction they're going. Like, yeah, sure, here's the Xbox Series X, but like, here's Game Pass. This is what you want, because we want to get our games and our pass on every console. We don't care how you're playing, as long as you're playing our stuff. Like, they made it very clear that they're not worried if the Xbox One X sells or Series X.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Microsoft doesn't need the money. They really don't, and they weren't going to win the console war. They've kind of been losing for a while, and so if they can just increase their revenue streams elsewhere, like, I'm not going to object to that.
Exactly. If that's what gets them the direction that we need to go to make this happen. But Game Pass, and I'm not sponsored by Game Pass here, and I talk about it a lot, but I love Game Pass. I am fairly broke. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't go out buying all the new games. So having about 50% of those games going on to Game Pass has been tremendous. And I can just try any new game I want, and they have EA Play now too. So
and there's no risk. That's the thing, is that I remember, having a very visceral experience, because I used to rent a lot of games back when Blockbusters and Hollywood Videos existed. Yeah.
That was the best way to go.
Right. And then, they go away and it's like, okay, well, I'm buying these games. And it's like, great, this game's so fun. 5 hours later, oh, it's done. And there's no multiplayer and there's no real replayability. And it's like, I spent $60 on this game for 5 hours. And then on this game, I spent 150 hours for the same amount of money. So you're kind of wasting your money. So being able to just try a game without having to worry about wasting all this money, you're going to be playing a lot more games.
Oh, absolutely. And I found so many games, just small little games that I enjoy hopping on from time to time. I found a golf game that I enjoy. I found like a little race car game that's on there that I enjoy. Like, it's stupid things like that, but it's at your fingertips, and it's $15 a month, and you're not spending $60 every 2 weeks to buy the latest and greatest. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's been good, and I agree. I'm glad that it's coming there, and that it's coming to that Halo is coming to the PC. So Should be good. Should be exciting. But let's
Yeah.
go ahead and move on to our main topic today, Star Wars Squadrons. All right. So, not much concerning the game itself and development. There weren't any real tie-ups that I could find. Nothing that like set the game back. No.
Yeah. Well, it kind of came out of nowhere. You know, we got a trailer. Yeah. We got a trailer drop, and we're like, "What the hell is this?" You know, and it's like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is squadron combat." But then it's EA, and
yeah.
I mean, EA won a lot of clout and won a lot of like love for Fallen Order because it didn't have any of their BS that they usually do. But you still have Battlefront 2 and like how like negative that felt, even with it's being fixed now. Like, and so absolutely. We had no idea.
And the cool part about that, really, and since you bring it up, so the game was actually developed by Motive Studios, published by EA, but it was developed by Motive. Motive worked on Battlefront 2 with I forget who
DICE.
DICE, yeah, they actually worked on this together, so they knew what EA was looking for in a game, and that's what kind of worried me when it first released. Was like, okay, if this company that's been working on a crap game is now making another game, like, is it just going to be another crap game?
Yeah,
but I don't know. We'll kind of get into our opinions on it, but ultimately, you play as a first person. It's a first person view. You play as a pilot, alternating between Empire pilot and Rebel pilot. Let's see. So, because it is, as you mentioned, it is a fighter game. It is built to be in the sky. You are playing as this ship, hunting and fighting and dogfighting and all of that. So because of that, all of your gameplay takes place in the cockpit. I don't know if at any point, I don't know if I'm just not far enough, but do you ever get out of your cockpit other than in cutscenes? Yeah.
No. So I've played a lot of multiplayer, and I've played about halfway through the single player campaign. And when we talk about that, I will explain why.
Yeah.
And it's really you are only ever in a ship. You're never getting out of the ship. There's never any like run and gun sections. It's 100% ships. Which,
I mean, definitely, it's something that I think I secretly deep down wanted a game like this with Star Wars. We got the pod racers, and I think I secretly wanted this game, but it still feels off. It doesn't quite feel, because you're not moving between the two, it almost feels choppy between your flights.
Interesting.
And I don't know if it's maybe just the menu system, and we'll talk about that when we get to controls here in a minute.
Well, it can also be a little, the game's pretty buggy. Like, as an example, the last one I was playing with my squad that I usually play with, we were doing an AI fleet battle because we introduced new players, and if you're under level 5, you can't play ranked matches. So you got to play with, we use it to level them up and teach them the basics and teach them how to do a fleet battle. And, I launch in a TIE bomber and my screen is black. I've got my HUD, so I can see like, oh, here's my objective and here's some, HUD information, but my entire view is black.
Weird. Does that happen often? Is that like a normal bug, or?
That's only happened once, but there are often times where sometimes like the invitation system, when if you want to invite someone to your squad, that can be a little buggy. You'll get error codes of like, hey, crossplay, make sure crossplay is turned on. It's like, yeah, crossplay is turned on, and both of us. I don't know why this isn't working. Matchmaking can also be a little weird. I don't know if that's buggy or just a bad matchmaking system.
9 times out of 10, it's bad matchmaking. Yeah. I have yet to see a system like maybe Overwatch that actually has a reasonable skill-based matchmaking system. Yeah. They're all janky.
Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing games where you're gonna play against like another squad that is like really like on your level, and you're gonna have a really competitive game. And then there's gonna be a time when you match with people that are 200 levels higher than you, which is
rough.
Like on the level that sounds like a high distance, but I really want to emphasize I have played this game. I've probably played 100+ games, and I'm at level 25. So, like, let's just contextualize that.
Okay, so it takes a bit to level up then.
It takes a
these are
bit
people
to
that are
level up.
grinding.
Yeah, these are people that are grinding. So there is definitely,
Okay.
and they have a couple different modes, but not many, and so not all are made equal.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the different modes here momentarily. The game is a class-based game. This was one thing I didn't actually know about when it first released. It is class-based, so you have a fighter class, interceptor class, bomber class, and support class. All of which, so the Rebel Alliance will have their ship within those criteria or within those classes.
Yeah.
And then you also have your Empire ship. So it's an X-Wing and a TIE Fighter for the fighter class, A-Wing and TIE Interceptor for the interceptor class. The bomber class is a Y-Wing, and you guessed it, a TIE Bomber. Go figure. And then support is a U-Wing and a TIE Reaper.
Yep. And each of those also are customizable.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have different loadout slots. You can load out to your main gun. You'll have 2 auxiliaries. You will have a countermeasure. So think of that like flares to hit missiles or, seeker warheads kind of thing. And then you can also customize your shields, your hull, and your engines. And you can have multiple loadouts. So they start you off with 2. You can earn more loadouts as you level up through the game.
Okay.
So basically, like, for example, I have 3 loadouts currently on any ship. So when I'm in my ship selection, I have my 4 ships that I can select from the 4 classes you listed. Mm-hmm. And I can toggle through different loadouts that are going to do different things. And the different loadouts are actually probably something that is going to be hard to get into. You've got to do a little bit of thinking, and there's going to be some Googling to figure out what some great weapons are. And there's also going to be some, hey, that guy killed me with ion cannons, and I didn't think that would work, so I need to check that out. Yeah. So, but that's one of a lot of the nuance of the game, and a lot of the fun of the game comes in is trying these different loadouts that are doing different things.
Makes sense. I haven't had a chance. I'm not leveled up. I spent a couple hours this week playing, but I'm not leveled up enough to really have anything that I can modify or change about my ship yet. So
yeah,
I did notice there was a lot of customization. We'll get into that here in a little detail a little later on, because I have some funny things that I have to point out talking about janky games. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I forgot where I was going with that. It's totally fine. Moving on. So let's talk about the single player real quickly here before we jump too far into your the multiplayer game modes, because I want to discuss those in length.
Sure.
So the single player game, it takes place when you first launch the game. That's the first thing that you really get thrown into. I know.
Yeah. So one of the values of the single player game is that it teaches you a lot of stuff that you're not going to learn if you dive right into multiplayer. I did multiplayer before I did anything else. I played quite a bit. And then I went and played the single player, and I was like, oh, I wish I had kind of done that first, because it teaches you how to drift. Drifting is very important. You will want to learn how to drift if you would like to be successful, particularly if you are like a dogfighter, or if you just want to kill enemy ships. So
we'll talk about the controls there, because that's actually one of the complaints that I have about the game, is specifically with drifting. So we'll talk about controls here momentarily. It's good, great call.
Yeah, right. So the single player is going to teach you about the game. The premise of it is it starts right after Alderaan is destroyed, and then it jumps forward to after the Battle of Endor, and it's basically this conflict between the remnants of the Empire and the New Republic. And the story has you alternate between a pilot for the Vanguard Squadron and Titan Squadron, which is the Rebel and Empire, respectively.
What I noticed was you're essentially, so you're playing you play the Empire side of the story, and then you play the Rebel side of the story. But there are times when you're almost intermingling to the point where you're fighting yourself.
Yep.
Technically speaking, you're on the other side. Like, it's really weird.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a single player campaign. The story isn't super compelling. It's basic, like run-of-the-mill Star Wars, and there are some Star Wars stories that are some of the most compelling narratives in modern media. This is not one of them, and honestly, it's just not that fun. There's a lot of people who my motivation to complete the single player campaign is because there's some skins you unlock if you do.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of cool as you unlock some stuff and they look pretty cool. But yeah, it's a good way to learn the basic controls, and you can also play it on, you can adjust the difficulty. So you can practice against harder stuff, but you can also just sort of try and figure out the controls. A big part of when you start off is just figuring out how the controls work in the game. Because sometimes you're going to kill yourself more than you're going to be killing an enemy in your first few games. And the single player is a place where you can figure that out. There's also a practice arena that you can do that.
I haven't found the practice arena yet. I'll have to check that one out. But that's the biggest thing with the story that I kind of have mentioned here is like, it's the first 2 missions that you go through are meant to serve as your tutorial. It's not, and that's about as far as I got before I started getting really pissed off really quickly. Again, it has to do with controls. Well, I have a whole segment dedicated to that for us because it's insane. But multiplayer, there's only 2 modes. We have dogfight, which is essentially team deathmatch.
Yep.
And fleet battles. What exactly is a fleet battle?
So a fleet battle is essentially where it's a 5-on-5 match where you have your capital ship. So you have a Star Destroyer. If you're Empire, you have an MC-75. If you're the New Republic, you'll have 2 frigates, and you will have raiders or corvettes. So essentially, it's just objective play where you're going to start off where you're going to do essentially a mini dogfight at the beginning of the game. There is constantly a bar for morale, where if you kill enemy ships, either AI, because there's the 5 opponents, but there's also a bunch of AI ships that show up and don't really do much other than die.
Makes sense. I mean, 5v5 is a little small for
a huge fleet battle. Yeah. So, but really, you're just shooting those 5 people. That's where a lot of the action's going to be. If you destroy them, you get +10 morale or +5 if there's only 5 left. And there's essentially this tug of war that once one side moves to, they basically our morale is overwhelmed yours, you go on the offensive, or vice versa, you would go on the defensive. And then you're trying to destroy the respective frigates or light cruisers if you're the Empire, and blow those up. And then once you do, you have access to the capital ship. So capital ships have 4 main subsystems. They've got 2 shield generators, they've got a power system, and they've got a targeting system. So you're trying to blow up these main targets and then attack weak points on the ships to blow them up. And the first person to destroy the capital ship of their opponent wins. And then, like I said, you're going to be constantly switching between offense and defense. If you try and attack your opponent when you're defending, if you try to attack their big ships, you technically can, but you'll be killed. You'll be shredded. The aggressiveness of the AI, the aggressiveness of those ships, and their damage goes way up. So it's a really fun tactical consideration. I can't really speak for if you're going to go into this solo, if you're just going to try and queue. That can probably be a really great experience. But one of the great experiences with fleet battles is, going in with, 2 or 3, or ideally even 4 friends, and having a live and having your voice chat and coordinating of like, hey, we're going to hop in some interceptors. We're going to go kill these people. You guys hop in bombers. I'm going to be on support. And you all sort of coordinate and work together. And that's where a lot of the fun of Squadrons really comes in, is like having these coordinated battles. And I will say, I'm a very big Star Wars nerd, like really, really big. I have Japanese Darth Vader. Oh, right over there. But one of the most fun things is just, quoting the movies, playing these battles. I'm going in for my bombing run. I'm not going to make it. They're on my tail. And just,
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Fleet battles where all the fun is happening. Like dogfighting can be super fun, but fleet battle is where it's at.
Okay, so how long does that game last? Because that actually sounds a lot longer and more tasks than I originally anticipated. How long is the game?
There is a time limit for the game. Okay. I'm not sure what it is because we've never gone to time, but they're going to be about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how good you are. If you get matched against someone who's going to slaughter you, or if you get matched against someone you're going to slaughter, and you basically never switch, you're just always on offense or always on defense, that thing can be over in maybe 10 minutes. But if you're like a really competitive game, it can go upwards of 20.
Okay,
So
that's still not terrible. I mean,
yeah,
at least you know kind of what to expect. It's not an all varying situation. It's
yeah. If I sit down for 2 hours with my friends to play Squadrons, we're gonna get in 4 or 5 matches.
okay. That's not bad at all. Now, are there any other game modes that you can see them adding or that you would want to see them add? Because 2 just seems low.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to add them. Like we've got a couple updates already. They've added a couple new maps. Right now, there's a rotation of about the same 6 maps. It has not gotten old. Part of that is because you're learning the game and you're figuring it out, and the competitive aspect is fun enough. Like, I mean, I'm not playing 6 hours a day. If you're playing 6 hours a day, I'm sure it gets tiring and I'm sure it would get old.
Yeah. Any games like that, though, I mean, that's not,
Yeah. I mean, right now I play 3 times a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time. So that's about what my frequency is. Yeah. And so they're adding new things. And here's the thing. Your requisitions, you get requisitions and glory are 2 resources. Sorry, 1 second.
No problem. All right, we'll let him step away here for a couple moments. So yeah, and not only are you getting your reputation and glory, the glory is what allows you to upgrade all of your equipment. So beyond just your unlocking as you go along, you do have the option to purchase them from the store with the glory that you've earned. Let's go ahead and add Scott back. There we are. No problem. No worries. We got you muted. There we go. One more time. I apologize.
It's okay. I was being punished. But anyway, as Nate was saying, you're unlocking glory, and you're using glory to unlock things like cosmetics and like little things that you can get in your cockpit, and and also paint jobs for your ships. And you're using requisitions to unlock weapons, subsystems, engines, and things like that. So I haven't unlocked everything I want, but I took a pretty specific look at the things I wanted, and I unlocked those first. So
that's what I do. Yep.
Yeah. And so I would say that you can, it's not restrictive. It's not like I need to play a ton to unlock the stuff I want. As long as you're smart and say like, look up a little bit of what the subsystems you want to play. If you're like, I really like playing in a bomber, I really like playing in an A-wing, you can kind of focus on those as well. There are definitely times where people just kind of play to a role. So it can be really helpful in that way.
Well, since we bring up customization and being able to unlock that, so yeah, I mean, ultimately we're looking customizable weapons, shield, cosmetics, pretty much everything else when it comes to your ship. I want to point out the customization of our characters for just a few moments here, and some of the weird things I was able to do with this. So first things first, you can pick any face that you want. That is your face. If you go in and choose your body, it does not matter if you change your gender. It does not change your face. So you can put any face with literally any body, and it starts to get funny after a minute.
Yeah,
I have a blue dude, and that was one of the weirdest things with customization, though, is you pick your face, you pick your body, you pick your voice, you're done. That's all you get for people. But the moment you get to your ship, everything is customizable.
Yeah.
So kind of one of the weird things I noticed.
Yeah, you can get little hollows and little like trinkets and whatnot. So
yeah, so just like you can see it on your dash. It's basically as if it was sitting on your dash. You can get there's a baby Yoda in there now.
There is.
I'm not sure. It's like a little bobblehead that you can get. It's fully customizable, but they do not care what your person looks like. They do not care.
I mean, I put a helmet on mine because So I mean, like it's not, to paraphrase Harrison Ford's words to Mark Hamill. It's not that kind of game, kid. You get an X-wing and you go pew pew and you blow things up.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's fun. And here's the thing: it's $40. If it was $60, I might feel like I was cheated out of a full experience. I have friends who picked it up from GameStop for $18. It is, it's VR compatible. So, there's some VR stuff that you can do there. Like For the price, I have felt like I have gotten a lot of value out of it for $40 because I did pay full price because I'm a chump. But
yeah, I found a lot of discounts. I picked mine up for like $5. I think by the time I was done, like that's the only reason I own this game right now.
Yeah, but like if you're a Star Wars fan and you've like kind of like I've always wanted to be in an X-wing, I've always wanted to be in a TIE fighter. Like, I mean, it's the best Star Wars simulator. In my opinion, I think Battlefront's attempts at space combat have been fine. Like they're fun, but they're just not as in depth here. And I understand that like
Battlefront air, like space battles. That was like that's what I was hoping for. That was more of the expectation that I had going in. So you do get some, but this is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, this is as you mentioned, like there's no single player character. You hop out of your pocket and shoot someone and plant a bomb in the capital ship, and like that was a really fun aspect of Battlefront 2 back in the day on the PS2. And I'm not saying Squadrons wouldn't be fun with that, but one thing that I like is they've really focused in on what it is and like the feeling of like just barely escaping, getting shot down or blowing up a Star Destroyer is just a really cool feeling. And I'm not saying everybody's going to love the game, but if you were a big fan of flight simulators from Star Wars back in the day on your PC, then like this is the ultimate culmination of what you wanted.
Well, last thing here, then kind of almost segueing in, but one of the biggest drawbacks that I have with the game, and really the only thing that takes me out of the game, is the controls of how you actually fly, though. So first thing I noticed, you don't have a head to swivel. So in order to turn your point of view, you have to turn your entire ship. And I know that there's supposed to be a free look option that would allow. I don't have that option. Doesn't matter what I select. Doesn't matter what I do. I cannot free look. So in order to turn the entire ship, in order to look anywhere, I have to turn the entire ship. It doesn't allow me to drift, so I can't turn quickly. So my biggest issue with this game right now is I can't track anyone. I can't move fast enough to get turned around to find out where anybody is.
So I think that might be a complaint that would probably be resolved with a mechanic that they have of the lock-on mechanic. Okay. So they teach you that if you want to lock, and I'm gonna speak for a PS4 controller. So if you're on PC, if you're on Xbox, I'm sorry, I don't know what the equivalents will be. And that's a problem, right? I mean, it's cross-platform, which is great, but I have literally tried to help people through it where they're like, I'm on PC, what's the button for this? And I'm like, I have no idea. Oh,
yeah, no, that's a completely...
Right. So the controls are functionally, and you can switch these around. And I've made some customizations. I've inverted my look because it's a space fighter game, and of course I'm going to invert my axis.
The aviator setting, just so it was
Yeah. So basically, you've got a throttle, and it's got you're completely full stop. You've got a halfway point. You've got a full throttle, and you can be anywhere in between those. Full stop, obviously you're going to be full stopped. Halfway, that's where you're going to be most able to turn and able to look. Full throttle, you're going full speed. And you are manipulating your ship both in terms of how it's oriented and moving up and down with the right stick, whereas your throttle. Some will have the stick switched about what they do. I switched it so the left has my throttle and the right has my orientation.
Yes, that's what I have it set to as well.
Yeah,
it just made the most sense. It's backward the other way.
Yeah, but basically, if you are looking at an enemy or if you're looking at something, you press L2. That's going to lock on and give you information about their ship, information about what they're doing, and it will also track them while they are out of your view. That's totally fine, but that requires you to find someone before you can lock onto them. However, if you press X, it will just find the nearest available person to lock onto. And you can actually open up a bar to select how you want X to prioritize. So you can prioritize it to enemy AI, enemy squadrons, allied squadrons, flagship systems, etc., etc. And if you're not using X to find enemy ships, you will not be finding enemy ships, and it will
Okay.
make dogfighting really unfun for you.
I'll have to check into that because my biggest issue was, again, I couldn't get turned around fast enough. So they're going this direction, I'm going this direction. Suddenly they're going this direction behind me, and I'm getting blasted out of the sky before I can even react because I can't get my ship turned around fast enough to even fire back. So, and I don't know if that's a lack of being able to look around and see everybody, or if it's I don't. I'm also wondering if I'm doing the throttle wrong. So this is the other thing that I noticed with the throttle, and it actually plays into the rotate as well. So I wish that the throttle was more of your standard push forward to go, and if I let go of the button, I stop.
Okay.
Right. Where it's more of a almost a toggle, not a toggle, but Squadrons feels like a toggle switch right now. You flip on, you're going fast. Whereas I prefer it without it, where you can more gradually. And so what I'm ending up doing is I'm thinking I'm just going to start going a little bit and end up blasting my my throttle all the way to the top. I go to slow back down, and all of a sudden I'm all the way back down to the bottom.
Sure.
And then I go to turn, and instead of turning, I'm rotating. I just start rolling instead. Right.
Well, ships can't do this. That's not how ships work, right? Yeah. So they require you to rotate and then basically go up and down, right?
Yeah. It follows science. It follows physics fairly well for being a Star Wars film.
For being a game that completely takes physics out of it with starships, right?
But it does. It makes the controls almost hard. You have to really think about what you are doing. Are you actually accidentally moving forward? Are you actually turning rotating your ship? Are you going up? Are you going down? Or are you just simply spinning in a circle?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that will come with practice, because one thing that like that comes with what I found with the throttle, like the throttle is what you make of it, right? If you want to go forward a little bit, give a little bit of throttle, right? And just, adjust it. And it's something that you have to keep track of a lot of these things. One thing that when you're starting out, you will not keep track of that is really important are your power systems.
Yes, that was I was going to bring that up. So yeah, what are our power systems? Go ahead on those.
So there's 3 power systems in a New Republic ship, and there's 2 in a Imperial. So you've got engines, weapons, and shields. So basically, you can toggle your power to basically either have them all equal, or you can put basically all power to 1. And it's pretty self-explanatory. If you put everything to engines, you're going to go faster. If you put everything to weapons, your weapons are going to recharge at a greater rate. And if you put everything to shields, your shields are going to last longer. You can also, in a New Republic, you can change if your shields are in the front or the back, like all power to forward shields.
Yeah, X does that, yeah? Well, I guess it'd be
square. Yeah. So if you hold square, and then it'll just come up with a little HUD that'll say, do you want it front or back? You can just select front or back. If you're in an Imperial ship, you can either do engines or weapons, but you can, with the same command of square in PS4, X in Xbox, select all power to engines or weapons to basically increase your speed or increase the damage and recharge rate of your weapons. So the Imperial ships are generally going to be faster than the New Republic, and the New Republic are going to be stronger in terms of they're going to be they can take way more hits.
Can they? All right. And I think that system, being able to transfer where your power actually goes, is one of the small nuances that if you can get good at that is what you're actually flying. You're not, you're trying to blow things up, you're trying to shoot and whatever else, but like being able to control your ship so that you don't die while still putting out damage is, if you can find that balance correctly, that is where the game lives. Yeah. Not necessarily just in how you turn around, Yeah.
Well, and one of the big things that really competitive squads are doing is they're basically coming in doing their damage, and then they're running back to get repaired by their frigates or their light cruisers. When you're on offense, your frigates and light cruisers during a fleet battle can repair you and resupply you. Because if you've got proton torpedoes or you've got certain rockets, there's a certain amount of them and you'll run out. And so you can go replenish yourselves, heal yourselves, and every time you die, you lose morale for your team. So basically, people they'll rather than kind of go shoot until they die, they'll choose to do a little bit less damage in exchange for running away, and then you lose no morale. And when you're a newer squad that doesn't really understand those squad tactics, like that's going to be really punishing to you. So that's something that I think about. Like the controls are going to take some time for anybody. I would say if the controls are giving you a hard time, like play the story. It teaches you everything you know about the controls in an environment that is very like if you're trying to learn in dogfight, like that's a bad idea. And the AI for fleet battle is actually pretty tough. Yeah, if you have normal AI, because you'd expect once you're pretty good at it, they're just going to beat you every time. I would say they are probably the AI is equivalent to maybe like a level 10 to 15 player, which if you start off with is going to just kick your ass. Easy is going to be easier, obviously, but
That's fair, and that's fair. So overall, what would your opinion on the game be? What do you think overall of the game? Would you recommend it?
Absolutely. I think it's a super fun game. It's not the greatest, most robust experience in terms of there are only 2 game modes. We've got an update with 2 new ships coming out sometime, and there's new maps, but it's got a single player game that is not worth playing unless you really, really, really want to have the practice or play the first 3 or 4 missions and then be done. But unless you really love like the Star Wars story and you really like, I'm going to do this, like
anything for canon type people. I don't care how I get the story, just give me the story. Yeah,
rather than just looking it up on Wikipedia like the rest of us. So if you like, I'd say like don't bother with the single player. Dogfight can be really fun, but fleet battles where a lot of the fun stuff happens. That's also the only one that's ranked. So if you want to improve your rank and actually get yourself put into placement matches so that the matchmaking is a little bit better, you're going to be in fleet mains. It's most fun when you've got a group of friends. If you're just like going to go in by yourself, I don't think it's going to be as fun because you're not doing a lot of that coordination, a lot of that teamwork. Because if you are not doing teamwork, you cannot be 5 individual starfighters. You will lose. You need to be working with your team. And it's okay if there's 2 people that you don't know and there's 2 people you do. Like that can still be really fun. So like it's best with friends. If you don't have friends, go get some friends and say, hey, we play squadrons with me, even though we don't know each other.
At least pretend to have friends, and you can always join us here on this join us in this chat. And if you make a comment with your gamer tag, I will add you because I need people to play with too. All right. Anyway, get that out of the way. The obligatory mic poll. I like the game. I think it's fun overall. Like I said, it feels like a game that I've wanted for forever, but didn't truly know that I wanted. The controls could be a little more user-friendly. They just feel backward, like I said. It feels split weird, and I'm not sure how or why. But I recommend it. I recommend picking it up.
It's a lot of stuff. It's not super intuitive. Like, once you get it, you'll get it. But it takes some work. Like, it's not something you'll dive in and be like, I got these.
Right?
You're going to crash into some asteroids. Some maps are going to be more your friend. I remember there's a map that's just empty, Yavin, and you'll go, yay, I can't crash into anything. Especially after you're playing like the Nadiri dockyards where you crash into everything or, so.
Fair enough. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. I've had an absolute blast talking with you. Go ahead. Any plugs for us? Any channels, streaming, anything like that?
No, I'm boring. I don't stream. I don't YouTube. I play games without an audience, but that's okay. I've really appreciated being here, and I like talking about things. So I will always talk about things.
It's fun. I enjoy doing this every week, and I would love to see more people up in the comments joining us and watching. But we'll slowly get there, and it'll be a little more fun as we go, but I again appreciate it. And I got to give a special shout out, as always, to my good man, Patrick Beatty, at Pat B Reviews and PatrickBeattyReviews.com. He's the one that actually puts this show on. He's the one that created it. So got to give a special shout out to him. I'm NatesLegend. Catch me at NatesLegend, both on Twitch and Twitter. But that's our show today. Thank you guys so much for joining, and keep on gaming.